what do we actually know about how much time Gates is going to be spending at the company, and what is he actually going to spend that time doing?
Right. Well, it's pretty cloudy at this point. We know that he is going to have some, if he was to step off as chairman, he would refocus his efforts from sort of the administrative duties of being a chairman to doing what he is best at, probably, and enjoys the most, which is products. It's unclear how much time. You know, we've heard sort of at least a day a week. But, you know, I think that the importance of it is, this is a man who, I mean, it's impossible to understate his role there, right? I mean, you know, the minute he's in the room, people are very much on their game. They're very much, he's you know, enormously admired there. So
right.
He'll have an immediate impact.
Sort of power over Microsoft.
Yeah, just
employees.
culturally, you know.
Crawford, what do you think about this move? Is this a good move?
Yeah, I think it could be a good move. I think that the sort of maneuver that you have to get your head around is, you know, Satya needs to, or whoever the CEO ends up being, needs to be able to be the leader of the company. So I think that in order to really capitalize on Bill Gates' expertise, you want to be able to deploy him in very, very measured ways. And I think that can be very much roll up your sleeves, pretty deep product review work. But I think that it doesn't necessarily need to be very, very broad or, frankly, being tied up in the administrative things that, as Peter was saying, a chairman can do. I think that's probably the worst thing you want to do. I think you want to have Satya emerge as a clear leader, but what you really want to do is have Bill Gates be able to help the company in specific areas.
Crawford, it sounds like you're suggesting the employment of limited nuclear weapons when you talk about using Bill in a little way when he's the founder and largest individual shareholder of the company.
Yeah, but I think that, I mean, again, you know, you look at, you know, some of the ways that Steve Jobs was able to, in a relatively narrow way, create massive transformation at Apple. You know, why couldn't Bill Gates be used in a similar way, helping them really think through a huge part of the company, but that part of the company is a transformational product-based in innovation, or frankly, product and service-based innovation. I think tying up Bill Gates in sort of all the administrative things that, you know, relate to business reviews and relate to understanding kind of the global strategy, I think that's the kind of stuff that you can have a very, very, you know, excellent executive doing, but it's not taking advantage of kind of his understanding of tech and where tech is going and where tech has been.
If the lore about Steve Jobs, though, at Apple, when he wasn't CEO, when he was involved in product and Apple was sort of going downhill, holds true, he sometimes got more in the way than actually helped. I mean, can Bill Gates, or will Bill Gates give Satya Nadella, Peter, the time and space to do the job that he needs to do?
I mean, you know, we'll see. I think that, personally, I think it makes some sense. I mean, because you don't have many cases where you have a product guy getting put back in charge of a big tech company. Typically what happens, and Jobs used to say this back in the day, where tech companies go wrong is they have the innovator in charge, and they come up with great products that change the world, and then they put the sales guy in charge.
Sales guy, yeah.
You know? And so this is really kind of an interesting move in that regard, especially because you look at Microsoft. They've had a lot of the right strategy. They've had the right strategy for a long time. I was just looking back at the history of Windows Mobile. They were working on Windows Mobile in 1990.
Right.
So the problem was they never got the product right. Now Satya Nadella is a product guy. I mean,
he was a tech guy, and I thought that one of the reasons possibly that they chose him was that Gates felt more comfortable stepping away because a tech guy would be in charge. That he was still a balance to Steve Ballmer in certain ways because he was the tech guy and Steve was a sales guy, and even though Steve would be the CEO for well over a decade, that there still was a tech guy as the chairman, and maybe he felt like they needed to regain that balance. I wonder how much of this is just a little bit of spin. Where Bill has said very publicly, he said on Bloomberg TV, that he was going to be spending most of his time and the rest of his life's work was going to be his foundation, not his company.
I think we actually have that quote. Let's take a listen to that before we continue.
My full-time work will be the foundation for the rest of my life. My wife Melinda are enjoying that. You know, I get to do it in depth. So I'm not going to change that. Although I'll help out part-time.
Peter, what do you make of his comments?
Well, he seems to mean it. So, you know, we're gonna see how much of, and there's so many moving parts going on there. I mean, if they bring in Satya, think about what a leadership change it is. I mean, we're going from, you know, monkey boy bomber, just the ultimate high energy. Right. It's a completely different change in leadership. So I can imagine that they might want to send the message that, hey, you know what, There's been a lot of changes, but
Well,
Bill Gates is still in the room.
It's been the Bill and Steve show with one company
33 years. They've had one
years.
chairman and 2 CEOs.
Right, and so a sea change indeed, and maybe one that they need.
Crawford, what do you think about this whole issue of sort of time and space and Bill Gates looking over Satya Nadella's shoulder, even if he's Gates' pick for CEO, how much progress can actually be made? I mean, obviously Microsoft has been an incredibly successful company, but they also have a lot of hard work to do right now.
Yeah, they have a tremendous amount of hard work to do. And I will guarantee you, if Bill Gates comes in and looks over the shoulder of every decision that Satya makes, chaos and calamity will ensue. Because you can't have someone whose life's work is going to be transforming the world, as Bill Gates just said in his quote, and then 20% of the week coming in and moving around the chess pieces that Satya spent all his time, putting into place. It would be, I think it would be a disaster. I think that there really has to be, if this isn't spin, there has to be a very thoughtful and I would argue somewhat tactical deployment of the great mind of Bill Gates, and let them kind of figure out the next chapter of their office strategy or the next chapter of their services strategy. I think that if you do something broader than that, or you start questioning, like I said, chaos will ensue.